In the land of big, giant, humongous superbikes, the ZX14 is king. Cue the intro. Guys, this is the Kawasaki ZX14. This is a 2008 year model, and I think this bike came out in 2006 and basically has remained unchanged up, I think it's currently actually. I love these bikes. So if you were to ask me, hey Sean, Kawasaki ZX14 versus a first gen Hayabusa. First gen Hayabusa went from 99 to 2007. I'm gonna go with the ZX14 all day long. Now, if you were to compare this to the second gen Hayabusa, they're different bikes. They're very different bikes, and I'm gonna explain that in a second. So I love these bikes. They are comfortable. A lot of people kind of even consider these like a sport touring bike. I could see how you would think that, but when you consider that in 2008, Kawasaki made the Concourse, which is the same bike, except even more sport touring with bags, a little key fob, shaft drive, and just a little more refined. It makes it hard for me to say this is their sport touring bike because they have a version of this in the sport touring category. But these are really, really comfortable bikes, and they are incredibly fast. Now, the biggest difference between the ZX14 and the Hayabusa that I've always noticed was how the ZX14 actually runs more like a leader bike. Very twitchy, and at the lower RPMs has just super snappy power. So it's really strong the whole way through. Now the Hayabusa has a little different characteristics where it's actually a little tamer at the lower RPMs, which is if you were an entry-level rider and you've been riding for maybe a year or a couple months, and you had to ride either a Hayabusa or a ZX14 to get home, I'm gonna throw you on that Hayabusa all day long. Now the Hayabusa is an incredibly fast bike, but you can actually be in a range where it's not that crazy. This is just super, super twitchy all the time, and I love riding these things. These are wheelie monsters. I think they're beautiful bikes. This right here, I've heard this recalled to the George Foreman grill. Put your steaks right on there, put your big old meat right on there. The ZX14 is rocking a 190 rear tire, and it actually is a very nimble feeling bike. You feel very confident hitting the corners, and you will see these things on track days every once in a while. So weighing in at 485 pounds, maybe around 65 pounds heavier than the 600, but with double the horsepower. This thing's pushing out 154 foot-pounds of torque. That's how much torque this thing is putting out. That is insane. Even though this bike can handle extremely well, it is a good all-around performance bike. A lot of guys, this is the staple bike, along with the Hayabusa, to be just a factory drag race bike. This thing will do 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, and this thing will also do the quarter mile in under 10 seconds, somewhere around like 9.7. But all that just depends on how much traction you get to the wheel and how good you are keeping the front end down. I'm sure with a minor mod, you can get these things running 8s in the quarter mile. They're awesome bikes. I cannot wait to take one for a spin, and it is extremely rare to see one 2008 just completely, basically bone stock. Now you got the Yosh pipe, and I would imagine probably underneath this seat is a power commander. We'll check that out later. But it's a beautiful bike. I can't wait to ride it. Let's go for a test drive. It feels so light. All right, guys, let's do the words of wisdom. Romans 12:12, rejoicing in hope, persevering in tribulation, devoted to prayer. Amen. All right, guys, let's put on the gloves. It's always good to wear your gear. I've just always loved these bikes. I love the way they ride. I love the way they feel. Any chance I can, I hop on a ZX14. I've also noticed that guys that ride ZX14s are so incredibly different than people that ride like the stereotypical, 600 rider. You got a pretty classy clientele of guys who ride ZX4. If all you did was sold Kawasaki ZX14s, you'd get some awesome people coming in, and I would imagine that most of them would be like, 35 plus, because you got to be a pretty confident guy to jump on a beast like the Kawasaki ZX14. Now we're gonna take it easy. Now, what you know, one of the first things you notice when you look at the gauges of the ZX14 is that you still have an analog speedometer. Now, most motorcycles have gone from the analog speedometer, and they do a analog tachometer and then digital speedometer. Not Kawasaki ZX14, which is kind of nice because it really is kind of hard to see how fast you're going when a digital speedometer is when you're accelerating, because the numbers are changing so fast. This you can, oh, okay, all right, 60, 70. When it's digital, it's like you just don't know, you just don't see anything. Like I was saying before, this is a pretty comfortable bike. You notice that these clip-ons actually have their own little built-in risers, so they're like about 2 inches above the lower forks. So if this was like a 600, they'd be much more down here. It'd be much more bent over. This is a fairly, not quite as like, you know, like a Supermoto, or not as, the ergonomics are not as much like a, you know, like a Street Fighter, but it is fairly laid back in a way, as being opposed to, you know, like an aggressive stance. Now pretty soon I'll show you guys what I'm talking about in terms of power once we get on the on-ramp to the highway. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to slow down a little bit. It just pulls so hard, and compared to like a 1000 or something else that pulls that hard like that, these bikes stay pretty planted. Now obviously, of course, the front end gets light. Of course, you could wheelie it if you wanted to. On a heartbeat, you can just pop that front end up. But man, these bikes are fun. Those mirrors give you a great view of what's going on behind you. They are actually very functional mirrors. They're far out there. They are very far out there, without a doubt. Of course, you got your gear indicator up there. We are in third. Now we are in second. And you can see that as soon as you hit like 5,000 RPMs, I mean, this thing really starts to get away from it. But even at the lower speeds and the lower RPMs, it's a little bit to handle. It's such a great bike in most cases. Now when I'm looking for a bike, when I'm looking for a sport bike, I don't want it just to go straight in a fast line. Just go fast in a straight line. I want the whole package. I want it to be able to handle. It's a sport bike. I'm not looking for a drag race bike, which I kind of look at the Hayabusa. The Hayabusa Gen 1 compared to Gen 2, the Gen 2 handles so much better. I mean, it really is a good all-around performance sport bike. And I've always looked at the ZX14s being in that same category, as it just does everything. It does everything really good. It handles good. If there was one bike that you were like, all right, I'm doing track days with, I'm doing touring with, I'm doing everything, the ZX14 would have to be a contender. It would just have to be. And for most people, it'd be a winner. You can see we're going the highway speeds, the legal highway speeds, and it is cruising. Oh, look, is that truck on the rails? Look. Look, see it? That's one of those Amtrak trucks. I've actually never seen one on the rails. That's so cool looking. Amazing. So we're at 6th gear. We're going 65 miles an hour, and this thing is not even breaking a sweat at 3,500, just 3,400 RPMs. And let's say something crazy's happening. Just roll on that throttle. I mean, if you guys could see how fast This went from 65 to the speed limit to what the actual speed limit is. It's quick, and that's top gear rolling on the throttle. Now if I wanted to, you know, get out of the way of something, if I wanted to get out of the way of something, you know what I mean? Done. It's done. Throw down 2 gears, throw down 3 gears. Honestly, I would imagine the second gear takes you close to 100 miles an hour. Guys, awesome bike. You do not see too many clean examples of these things. Unmolested. All it has is an exhaust. Beautiful bike. It's on the website. Check it out right now, srkcycles.com. It might be sold, who knows. It's not sold right now, but I don't know when you watch this video. We'll see you guys later. Do not forget to subscribe, and if you're looking for a new pair of gloves, check out the click on the link below. Check out the M1 Moto gloves. These are one of the baddest gloves, super strong and tested to be ridiculously tough. Crash tested. We'll see you guys later. Remember, it's not what you're riding, it's where you're going.